Sales and marketing superheroes to share their tips and tricks to guide you to become your very own B2B superhero. This week, I'm joined once again by Christina Garnett, Principal Marketing Manager for HubSpot. Christina, it's lovely to speak to you again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
We are here because we are going to be talking about what's working in B2B marketing right now. We're arming you with the strategies which are providing the best results in the current market. So, Christina, my first question to you in that case is what are those key trends and strategies that are currently driving success in B2B marketing?
Number one has to be that they're not taking themselves too seriously. We're seeing more and more brands starting to be playful. Sometimes it looks like a meme, sometimes it looks like a joke. They're jumping into conversations that have nothing to do with them, but have something to do with their audience and what their audience cares about. So you're seeing a lot of fun ways to be able to interact with people, and it's winning because people are sick of that, like wearing a tie. Like, it's all so serious and you're taking yourself too seriously. That's a big thing that we're seeing.
Yeah, that's. I think that's absolutely fair because, like, it can sometimes be the case that B2B marketing is, it's not quite as rock and roll as B2C. Do you know what I mean? It's not quite
Yeah.
as yeah. It's like you say, it's a bit more strict. It's a bit more restricted, but we're seeing this trend of people involving humor and that sort of thing.
Yeah. They're being playful. I think that what we've seen is we've seen certain brands go off into like unhinged territory, and brands see what they're getting with that. They see the engagement, they see the earned media, and they want to be a part of it, but they know full well there's not brand safety in going that far out. So it's how can we kind of go from being very straight laced and wearing a tie and a bit boring? How can we kind of go closer and closer to that unhinged, but not go full? And so what we're seeing is a lot of people being playful. They're asking questions. They're using memes. They're creating TikToks. They're really trying to explore what it means to be a follower of them and what it means for their customers. And so I think you're seeing that explosion. I think the other thing that we're seeing is this continuation of customers as creators. We've seen this in UGC, but we're seeing it more and more now because brands understand that the voice of the customer, word of mouth, is the one trend that isn't really a trend. It's never going to go away. So, how can we create opportunities for our customers to want to be creators? How can we share them, amplify them, make their voices louder? But then also, how can that be a part of our overall strategy where voice of the customer is a core pillar of the content that we're creating and amplifying?
Absolutely. It's funny you say the customer as a creator idea there. It was about a year ago. I had a guest on the Essential B2B podcast. It was, which is one of the podcasts I do for Lead Forensics, and he runs a social media agency. And his big thing back then, even then, was you know uh, companies have got to post like creators. That was the whole
Mhm,
mo of that company was we help you to post like creators.
mhm.
Um, I think it goes back to it just makes the company seem a bit more human, doesn't it?
Oh, 100%, and it makes you feel as a customer or as an audience member that you get it. Great example of this is, um, her name's Maria, I don't know her full name, but she runs the Good Omens account for Amazon Prime, and she created like a fan. Like, the way that she was posting on her personal account as well as on the brand account, you could tell that it was through the eyes of a fan,
Mm.
and so that made the fandom embrace it even more. Like, she's gonna post something that's gonna ruin your day, and she knows it, and she's gonna cackle at it a little bit. That sort of thing, that playfulness is fantastic, and so when we see brands jumping into conversations, but they're showing their fandom too, we absolutely love to see that. A really great example of that was, when you saw with the Ted Lasso finale that was earlier this year, there were brands that were stepping up, and it was so clear that they were coming from the point of view of a fan, not from a brand. And so the way that they talked to other people, the way that they got excited about things was different. And it makes you feel like the celebrities are just like us. Brands, they're just like us. It does create that human kind of connection. And you tend to resonate with that content a lot more. So, really thinking about what that looks like for you, it's gonna endear people to you.
So what are those types of content that, companies watching this can go away and start creating to, engage with their audience in that way?
Um, I think that they need to start consuming content. If they're not already consumers, it's gonna be really hard to create inside of a bubble if you're not seeing what other people are doing. You need people on your team. They don't need to, like, be constantly online. I'm very guilty of that. But you need people who are like, what are people talking about right now? Like, if you're doing like social stand-ups and branding and content stand-ups, you need to be talking about not just what are the trends we need to be jumping into, but like, what is our audience actively talking about? Because if they're talking about something that's really negative that has nothing to do with your brand, obviously jumping into that conversation has a lot of risks for you. But if you see that they're all watching, let's say that they're all doing something with the Taylor Swift concert movie, or they're all doing something with like Fall the House of Usher. What are the opportunities that you can really kind of be playful and say, like, we're watching this too? And there's a lot of times where your brand can be a part of something and not realize it. And then you wind up hoping that you are in tune enough that you can capitalize on it. Great example of this is The Last of Us. From earlier this year, they had a scene post-apocalyptic, and there's an Arby's, like, which is a restaurant in the States, and they have this like dilapidated sign. The Arby's social team within 24 hours had a full campaign ready to go.
Absolutely,
You
yeah.
you
I
don't
mean,
do that if you're not paying attention.
yeah, 100%. And I suppose you could argue one of the biggest examples of that kind of jumping on that sort of content and creating campaigns around that sort of thing was the Barbie Oppenheimer thing. I think we might have even
Yes.
spoken about that last time you were on.
Yeah. I loved that. I loved the Barbie Oppenheimer thing. It feels like the world is in such a dark place. It feels like we've been constantly under a barrage of negative news since 2020. So anytime there's an opportunity to be playful and have fun and just like enjoy your life for a little bit, grab it. And Barbie Oppenheimer felt like this really beautiful moment where the internet collectively was like, this is hilarious. We're going to lean in. And
But
then
particularly from both sides, wasn't it?
from
There's
both
each
sides, yeah.
demographic.
Oh, yeah, and it was beautiful. It was fantastic, and then on top of that, both the movies were excellent. So, you win on top of that, and so I think it really comes down to, in a world that's incredibly dark, where can you find joy, and where can you put joy in your content so that you get to be a bright spot? A lot of the accounts that I follow on social are not necessarily marketing, but they make me smile. They make me feel like this is really fantastic. There's a Twitter account. It's the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife. Now, on paper, that should be horrendous, but it's perfect. Like they did one where it was like you need to check your Halloween candy, make sure there's not any like carp stuck in your in your candy bars. They've done things on like they've made jokes like, "Your girlfriend doesn't want flowers, she wants a homemade bird feeder and to be left alone." And one of their followers, like, quote tweeted it and said, "This is the truth, like, I need to send this to my boyfriend." And they responded to her and was like, "What's his at? We'll tell him." Just like that playful like, brands feel like they have to go all the way to the full extreme and become the friend that gets, like, arrested every weekend. Don't be that friend. Be the friend that you go to when you're having a bad day and you know this person will make you laugh. That's the friend we all want. And on social, when you're constantly having a barrage of like negative news and doom scrolling, I'm looking for these like little positive moments of joy. There's another one where um this man's a librarian and he just exudes this like he's basically the modern LeVar Burton for like kids in libraries right now, and his face is just kind and joyful, and he just looks like friendliness incarnate, and he's talking about books and how he welcomes people to the library. Like, that is a ray of light in a really dark world. And so when we're looking at brands who are constantly barraging us in ads or organically and they're trying to sell us something, like, we know you want us to convert, we know you want our money, like, we know what the end game is. But I don't wanna be lectured, I don't wanna be forward. If you can make me laugh or you can make me think, that's gonna be really playful. And nostalgia is huge. In the States, we just had Walmart do a Black Friday ad that was bringing, like, almost all, not all, but, like, 98% of the Mean Girls cast together to do a Mean Girls version of a Black Friday ad, and it was perfect.
Mm.
It was so good. Like, have fun, be nostalgic, be playful. Like, those things, it's gonna take us to a really kind place. You get to be that serotonin for people.
It's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, marrying the B2B, bringing that
It's
sort of side
not.
and the humorous or the nostalgic or whatever emotions you're trying to evoke. It's not always the easiest thing
It's
to
very
bring those two
hard.
ideas together.
It's very hard. One of the things I think is really interesting and where I think that customer's creator piece comes back is that a lot of times customers, well, not a lot of times, just in general, customers can do things that a brand could get sued for. And so looking at the UGC that your customers are doing, what is the content that they're doing that's doing particularly well? Can you amplify that? Can you repost it? Can you share it? But seeing like, how are they telling their story? Is it through music? Is it through memes? Is it through anything else? And essentially using them almost as like a test. Like they are the A/B test. We're not having to create anything, but we're going to do social listening and we're going to see what kind of vibes other customers are liking. What does that content look like? Is that something that we could do too? Or is it something where we kind of amplify that and don't have it be on our brand channels like by us? That's an opportunity to start taking those little micro steps without like really risking it. Cause like you said, it can be very difficult. But by doing that social listening and looking and seeing what your customers UGC looks like and what's performing well, it'll really kind of help guide you into what does playful but safe look like for our brand? What's going to get people's attention but in a fun way? And also, you don't want everything to turn into a meme. Like you can be playful, but if every piece of content that you create is a meme or is rude or mean or is unhinged, you're rebranding yourself whether you realize that's what you're doing or not. And so you have to be careful that it doesn't become a crutch. It needs to become a part of the strategy, but not the entire strategy.
Just to pivot ever so slightly away from the social side of things,
Mhm.
the things we see on LinkedIn or Instagram, whatever. Uh, Are you aware? Are there any sort of emerging trends or the things that are working immediately right now in email marketing, for example?
Yes. So in email marketing, what I think is really interesting is that we're seeing this continuation of personalization does not mean personalization. For the longest time, having someone's name in the subject line or at the beginning of the email was like, see, we've personalized it for them. The consumers have seen that for a very long time and they know what that looks like. And so what personalization means to the consumer has drastically changed. And so what I'm continuing to see more and more in email is having either videos in email so you have another reason to kind of feel engaged once you're in there, but also creating more workflows and triggers. So like a lot of game theory in email marketing so that we can really kind of tailor into these like micro segments based on behaviors instead of everyone getting the same email, but say we personalized it, it has their name in it. Really have to take those extra steps. And honestly, it comes into you set up that segmentation and then you're able to go from there. So you're really only doing it a few times and then you're kind of setting it off on these different paths where it feels like it's meant for them. And that's kind of what you need to do is the consumers are smarter than we give them credit for. And a lot of the tricks that we've been doing for so long that everyone's picking up on it.
Mm.
I'm still seeing, I don't know if I've vented to you about this or someone else, but the whole like Black Friday sale. And then on Saturday, you get an email be like, oops, we extended it. I'm like, oh no, like I know exactly what this is. You know exactly what this is. This is so tired.
Mm.
The thing is that you have to be hyper obsessed with your customers and what they're seeing and what they're doing, and also be aware that you are not the only email that's going to go into their box. So if there's this like, hey, everyone should use this as the subject line, and then that consumer goes into their inbox and like every other email is that subject line, that's a massive red flag and a reason that I and others would just be like, if they're all copying each other, I don't need to read these. There's nothing new in here for me because they're all copying each other. And so having that hyper focus on what your customers needs and what they're wanting to see from you is such a really clever way to stay top of mind and not have to worry about others competing with you, because it's not your competition, it's your community, it's your audience that you're focused on.
So, just on the, let's say you receive an email with a video attached to it,
Mhm.
in this idea of personalization. Are there any particular factors that go into that video that make you more likely to go, okay, let's check this out? Is there any sort of format to those videos, or is it just the fact that there is a video, someone has taken time to shoot something to send to you that gets you to open that one?
I think it needs to be like, what is the video for? So if it's just like a pitch and they've done it as a video, that's not enough.
Mm,
For me, it needs to be, why is that a better lift for me? Which is, it's humanized. I want to connect with you. I want to do more. I don't want it to be hyper polished. I want it to be one to one.
mm.
So it could be something to the effect of, hey, just wanted to say hi, video. And in that video, they're like, hey, I know we've talked over email a few times, but I wanted to send you a video so you got to see me and you got to hear my voice. And that way we can get to know each other better. And would love to, and like as a preview to a call, it's huge because now I have a deeper idea of who I'd be talking to if I had to jump on a call.
Mm.
And so if that person comes across as friendly and genuine and authentic and like they actually look like they would care about what I have to say, that feels really nice. But if it's very much like, "Hey, just wanted to say hi and introduce myself, and I'd love to have a call with you, and I'd love to tell you about our service." As soon as they tell me that they want to pitch to me, I'm out. Now, if you say, "I'd love to learn more about you and what your problems are," or I'd love to tell you about da da da," it really depends on who that audience is. Because some audiences don't want to be entertained, some audiences don't want to be educated. You have to know what the audience wants. For me, if you are coming from a place of, I want to learn more about you and us figure out how we can work together, that's going to hit for me. That wouldn't hit for everybody. And so for me, it comes down to like being deeply authentic. But if it's like hyper polished and slick and all this other stuff, it's very weird to me. And so it feels performative and like this is the video that everyone gets, the more
Yeah.
polished it is.
Absolutely. And I suppose just sticking with the personalization thing, I don't think that, at this current point in time, 2023, I don't think we can have a conversation about how do you do that personalization at scale without mentioning AI. So, are
Mhm.
there any things that you've noticed over the past year that, when AI was starting to become at the start of the year, the focus of the conversations and everybody was talking about it? As how have you seen that's changed, and what state do you think that's in right now in using AI for, well, not only just personalization, but all over marketing efforts?
Yeah. I think I think AI is crucial to utilize. I think you need to see it as like the smartest intern you've ever worked with. They may or may not have the context and the nuance of your experience, but they have like baseline information that they can pull like more from. Think of it like a co-pilot. I love like, so as I mentioned earlier, being able to create workflows off of that segmentation. So creating prompt, like earlier, it was more like, hey, write something that has to do with this. And the tone wasn't right. The voice wasn't executed correctly. A lot of people were doing like one prompt and they were done. They weren't massaging the prompt and tweaking it to make sure that it actually got improved over time. Now, what we're seeing is everyone's essentially like shoved a hose up to ChatGPT and then are creating their own little startup versions of all these things. But a lot of that you can still do within ChatGPT or one of these tools to begin with. For me, it comes down to, you need to come to the table with a very clear plan. So if I wanted to create a personalized workflow saying, all right, I'm creating a workflow based off of this specific customer who are in this specific stage. This is who they are. This is what their needs are. And I want to create an email based off of introducing myself. And then the secondary motion would be if they open it or if they don't open it. And then the next one would be they opened it and they clicked on this link versus that link. And then we're going to create these like decision trees. Can you write an email copy in this specific tone? Don't use anything higher than this like grade level language for each of these segmented things. That I think is huge. A lot of more people are starting to realize that just like good data in, good data out, the more thorough your prompt is, the more optimized and improved your result is going to be. And then the other thing that I do is I ask it to ask me questions. So be like, please include any questions that would improve your response. Because that could open up things that like, oh, I didn't even think about that. Or yeah, they would have no context. How would they know that? I find that AI is incredibly great at taking you off of a blank page.
Yeah,
So
it's what my manager would refer to as a starter for 10, which is
yes,
a
yes,
universal
yeah.
challenge reference. I'm not sure you'll get those.
I
And
don't, I don't. But it's okay. It's okay.
it's great. I tell you what, the UK portion of the audience, they're rolling in the aisles. That was hilarious to me. Uh,
But it's true though. I see AI as almost like the cure for writer's block. It doesn't mean that it's going to be good, but
mm,
it means that you have something beyond a blank page. And now you have something to edit, you have something to correct, you have something to finesse and massage and get where it needs to be. And so let's say that you had to write 10 emails, 10 different emails to create this decision tree workflow. If I tell you that and I'm like, it's Friday, happy Friday, I need you to create this, you like the groan that would come out of you. Even if you're an email marketer, would be like, oh, can I do this any other day of the week? Now you create a really thorough prompt and now you have these 10 different emails constructed that now you can then go in and be like, I would never say this word. Like a lot of people don't say keen, but ChatGPT is keen to do everything. That's not how I talk. So I'm going to have to change that. And I'm going to have to make sure that it has the right tone and has the right style. And is it too generic or should it be personalized even further? But having that jumping off space is incredibly important. And I think AI is that tool for like unlocking that ability without people feeling like they have to sit down and write 10 different emails. And then also asking it for guidance. Like, how would you split this up into microsegments? If I gave you this persona and this is the campaign, what are the microsegments that you think would be most beneficial for this? And so doesn't mean it's going to give you the right answer, but it can kind of point you in different directions and make you think about things that maybe you would have missed.
100%. Well, Christina, unfortunately, I think we're starting to slightly run out of time here.
Mhm.
You've offered up, as always, Christina, some really, really incredible value and insights for our audience. I'm going to come back to you for one final question in a
Yeah.
second, but just before I do, it's obviously being B2B superpowers. Many superheroes have the power of invisibility. So wouldn't it be great if were able to reveal the invisible B2B visitors to your website? Lead Forensics is exactly that. It is a software which identifies visitors to your site, showing you their customer journey, what links they've clicked on, pages they've looked at, and all in real time. If you'd like to book an obligation-free trial or sit a demo with us, then let me know on the poll, which is on screen now. We will get in touch if you hit yes. Send me with a free trial or book a demo, and we'll get that all sorted for you. I'll leave that up while we come to the end of our conversation with Christina here. And if I could also ask you to click on the on-screen link to fill out our webinar feedback form, I'd love to hear what you enjoyed about this week's particular webinar. So, Christina, as I say, you provide us with loads of valuable takeaways here, but I am going to ask you for just one key takeaway. What's the absolute golden rule you want people to come away from this webinar thinking about today? What's that ultimate lesson?
The one trend that will not go away is the voice of the customer. If you are obsessed with them and what matters to them and create content around that, then you won't have to worry about trends. You won't have to worry about buying for their attention because you're going to be giving them what they need to see.
Fantastic stuff as ever. Christina, thank you so much for sharing your B2B superpowers with us today. Remember to keep an eye on Lead Forensic Socials for news of our upcoming webinars, and we will see you again very, very soon. Christina, thanks so much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.